"Show me Grandpa's rifle." That's what Tyler Robinson's father told investigators. 5 simple words, but they carried the weight of a truth no parent ever wants to face. In that moment, a father wasn't protecting his son. He was exposing him. He was holding out the one thread that could unravel everything Tyler had tried to hide. What kind of father does that, and why? Think about it. Most parents will fight to shield their children from the harshest consequences, but here, faced with the images of a rooftop sniper and the name of a national figure lying in a hospital, Matt Robinson made a choice. He chose to point the finger at his own blood. He chose justice over loyalty, accountability over silence. But what led to that moment? What warnings did the family see in the days and weeks before the shooting? Could they have spoken up earlier? And most haunting of all, if they had, would Charlie Kirk still be alive today? This is not just the story of a public figure killed at a campus event. It is the story of a family living under the same roof as a young man unraveling before their eyes, a father forced into an impossible position, and a nation that must ask, how many times do we look away until the cost is too great? Because this case isn't only about a bullet fired in Utah. It's about the silence of those closest to the shooter, the weight of a father's conscience, and the line between protecting the ones you love and protecting everyone else from them. And as we break this case open piece by piece, I want you here with us. So if you haven't already, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because every new update matters. And together, we're going to uncover the full story. Charlie Kirk was more than a headline. He was more than a political label, more than the stage lights and the microphone. To his wife, he was a husband. To his parents, he was still their son, T. Oh, his community, he was a voice that carried conviction, whether you agreed with him or not. At just 31 years old, he had built a national platform that drew thousands of young people into the conversation about America's future. He filled arenas, led campus tours, and pushed debates into living rooms across the country. But away from the spotlight, those close to him described a man who laughed easily, who leaned on his faith, and who believed he was doing his part to shape a better world. That's what makes what happened in Utah so devastating. On that September evening, Charlie stood on stage at Utah Valley University addressing a crowd of students who came to challenge, to listen, or simply to witness a national figure in person. For them, it was supposed to be an ordinary night on campus, a night of speeches, questions, maybe even heating arguments, but nothing more than words. Then a single shot from a rooftop turned that night into a national tragedy. The news spread instantly, not just across the state, but across the country. Phones lit up with breaking headlines. Video clips circulated within minutes, and disbelief turned into a wave of shock. For his supporters, it was the silencing of a voice they believed in. For others, it was the chilling proof that even the fiercest debates should never end in violence. And for the students who were there, many of them barely old enough to vote, the memory of that moment will be carved into their lives forever. They went to hear ideas. They left carrying trauma. Utah Valley had never seen anything like it. Parents pulled their children out of campus events. Communities questioned security at every gathering, and the national conversation shifted yet again toward one haunting theme. If words can get you killed, what does that mean for all of us? In the weeks before Charlie Kirk's death, subtle cracks began to show in Tyler Robinson's life. To his family, he seemed more distant. Meals grew quieter, conversations shorter. He withdrew to his room, keeping the door closed for longer stretches, his focus turning inward. What little he did share was often marked by frustration, long arguments about politics, tense exchanges over values, and an intensity that left his parents unsettled. Those close to him noticed the change. He was no longer just disagreeing with his family. He was pushing them away. His mother later said he had become more political in his daily life, more outspoken and more divided from the household he grew up in. His father, Matt Robinson, was especially uneasy. For him, these weren't just disagreements around the dinner table. They felt like warning signs that something was breaking down in his son. Then there was the rifle. It wasn't just any weapon. It had been passed down through the family, tied to his grandfather, a relic of tradition and heritage. But that rifle became more than an heirloom. It became the object of his father's concern. Reports suggest Matt Robinson asked Tyler to send a photo of it to prove it was still where it belonged, to reassure him it hadn't been taken for something reckless. That message would later haunt him because the answer never came. At the same time, Tyler was confiding in someone else, his roommate. Court filings and text records reveal a relationship that was not only close but romantic. In those private messages, Tyler expressed his anger toward Charlie Kirk, his feelings that he had had enough of Kirk's words. He even left a note under his keyboard, a note his roommate he would later discover outlining his intent. The walls of secrecy were closing in, but no one outside that circle fully grasped what was coming. Then came the breaking point. The FBI released surveillance, images from the rooftop where the shot had been fired. Within minutes, those images were circulating everywhere. Television, news sites, social media, feeds, and somewhere in Utah, Matt Robinson stared at those images and saw what no father ever wants to see, his own son's face. Recognition was instant. Denial was impossible. And in that moment, the responsibility shifted from father to witness, from protector to the one who would decide whether the truth stayed buried or whether it was finally handed over to the world. When the FBI released the rooftop photos, the nation saw a grainy outline of a suspect. But Matt Robinson saw something else. He saw the shape of his son, the tilt of his head, the outline of features he had known since the day Tyler was born. According to investigators, his first words were almost unbearable. "That's my boy. Show me the rifle." It was a father's way of asking for the final confirmation he prayed he wouldn't get. When Matt confronted Tyler, the room shifted into a silence that carried more weight than words. Tyler didn't outright confess, but what he did say was enough. Enough to confirm the suspicions. Enough to erase any hope that maybe this was all a mistake. And then came the threat no parent ever wants to hear. If law enforcement came for him, he would take his own life before surrendering. In that moment, Matt Robinson faced a choice most of us can't even imagine. Protect his son from the consequences or protect everyone else from the danger he now represented. He didn't face it alone. Knowing the situation could explode in seconds, Matt reached out for help, a trusted youth pastor and a law enforcement contact. Together, they moved carefully, step by step, to de-escalate. This wasn't just about an arrest. It was about keeping Tyler alive long enough to face the truth of what he had done. And yet, around this decision, the internet began to churn. Rumors spread that Matt had seen warning signs weeks before, that he'd known about the rifle and Tyler's escalating arguments long before the shooting. Some claimed he even considered donating any potential reward money to Charlie Kirk's family, a claim that has since been debunked. Others speculated that tensions over Tyler's romantic relationship with his roommate or his growing ideological rift with his parents created a silence in the home that delayed action until it was too late. Whether those rumors hold weight or not, the core reality remains. Matt Robinson carried the burden of handing his own son over. Imagine looking into the eyes of the child you raised and realizing you may be signing away his freedom, maybe even his life. That is the cost he bore. And that moment, that impossible choice, became the turning point in one of the most shocking cases the nation had seen. As investigators pieced together Tyler Robinson's path to that rooftop, one truth cut deeper than any headline. This was not a crime of sudden impulse. Records and testimony suggest Tyler had been planning the attack for more than a week. The notes he left behind, the messages to his roommate, even the silence around the rifle, they were all breadcrumbs, scattered long before the shot was fired. And yet, none of those signs reached the systems that are meant to prevent tragedies like this. His roommate knew enough to worry, but fear and loyalty kept that warning locked behind closed doors until after the fatal moment. His father suspected enough to ask about the rifle, but his text came only days before the attack, too late for intervention. And so, the family's fears and the roommate's doubts remained isolated. each one a signal that might have stopped the violence if only it had been reported in time. When the bullet struck Charlie Kirk, it was already too late. Law enforcement, once alerted, moved with speed and precision. The evidence mounted quickly. Surveillance images, written notes, digital messages. Within hours of the father stepping forward, the case began to take shape. But what haunts this investigation is not how quickly police acted afterward. It is how little was in place to stop the storm from building inside Tyler's home. Because here's the hard question. How many families see the same warning signs every day? The isolation, the anger, the fixation on weapons, and feel powerless to act until the damage is done. This wasn't just a personal failure. It was a systemic one. A reminder that the institutions designed to catch early danger signals, schools, mental health services, even community networks, often miss the very people who need intervention most. And by the time the system responded, a young man was in custody, a national figure was dead, and a family was shattered forever. For Charlie Kirk's family, the loss is beyond measure. A husband, a son, a leader gone in an instant. No courtroom verdict, no investigative file, no viral headline can fill the silence left behind at his dinner table, in his home, and in the lives of those who loved him most. His wife now wakes to an empty side of the bed. His parents, who once sat proudly in the front row of his speeches, now sit in grief. His voice, which carried into halls and arenas across America, has been silenced forever. But on the other side of this tragedy, another family carries a grief few can understand. The Robinsons are mourning too, not for a public figure, but for the life their son destroyed. And for the son they must now watch face the ultimate punishment. It is a double loss. The shame of knowing what he did and the sorrow of realizing their child is no longer the boy they once raised. Then there is the roommate, the one person Tyler trusted most, bound by affection, bound by secrets, and now bound by guilt. What was once love is now testimony. What was once private is now evidence. To sit in a courtroom, to hand over messages, to explain the note hidden beneath a keyboard. It is a role no one envies, and one that will haunt them for years to come. And the community is left shaken, searching for answers that may never come. In Utah Valley, the question echoes through classrooms, churches, and homes. How many warning signs must we miss before something changes? How many sons and daughters must slip into anger and isolation before their pain erupts into violence? The grief is not contained to one family or one city. It stretches outward, touching everyone who has ever wondered if they could have done more, if they should have spoken up sooner, if silence itself carries part of the blame. So we are left with one question that cuts deeper than any verdict ever could. What would you do if you were the father? Could you choose justice over blood? Could you look into the face of your own child, recognize the truth, and hand them over knowing what it would cost? Matt Robinson's choice will be debated for years, but at its core, it forces us all to confront the balance between loyalty and accountability. How far does a parent's love go? Where does family end and responsibility to the community begin? This case also exposes something far larger than one family's tragedy. It shows us the danger of radicalization, the silence that often lingers in households when warning signs appear, and the hidden burdens that parents, siblings, and friends quietly carry, often until it is too late. And perhaps that is the hardest lesson of all. Justice isn't only about punishment after the crime. It is about prevention before the act, awareness before the tragedy, and the courage to speak, even when it means turning against the very people you love most. As this story continues to unfold, we'll keep following every update, every hearing, and every new revelation. Because this case is about more than headlines. It's about choices, consequences, and the cost of silence. So, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because we'll be here to bring you the truth as it develops, the real stories, the hidden details, and the lessons we cannot afford to ignore. Music.